Welcome to the Darkstream, Vox Day, voxday.net, and unauthorized.tv. Audio is good, video is good, DLive chat is rolling, unauthorized chat is up, and super chats are active. Now, I'm sure that there's some current events that you'd like me to address. And I will take questions related to them after I talk about what I want to talk about, which is probably not a mystery to those of you who have been reading the blog today. But, I've been busy, very busy, the last week or two, among other things, learning how to drive a digger. But the thing that we've been most busy with is that we are very, very close to going active with the Bindery. And what that means is that all the machines are there, they're all confirmed operational, and we begin the training process. And then after the training process, we begin the test binding process, and we just practice and practice and practice until we reach the level of quality that is expected of us. So we consider the current level of Castalia library books to be the minimum. And so why is what does this have to do with the title of the show, title of the stream? Very simple. Hang on, I'm gonna sneeze. Sorry about that. It's probably more where that came from. So Frank Castle is the name of a character who was created, I believe, in the 80s. A Marvel character. The legend Chuck Dixon wrote The Punisher for some period of time and is generally considered to be one of the more successful writers of that particular character. And it's a pretty straight up revenge fantasy. The core storyline was pretty basic. Military veteran, family tragically killed by gangsters. I don't remember if it was the mafia in the comics. On the TV show, the most recent TV show, it was, rival gangs and that kind of thing. And Chuck had issued a statement, and I will I'll read it in a minute. But Marvel was never particularly comfortable with the Punisher, especially when his iconic symbol, the extended skull on his body armor, was adopted by special forces soldiers and police units and cartel members. It became controversial, and then of course once the woke thing, once the SJWs took control, the Punisher was extremely disfavored, to the point now that he has essentially been terminated, canceled. Let me show you let me read you what the Zero Hedge had to say about it. Let me see, maybe that wasn't it. There we go. Okay. So this is the story we put up on the blog. And it says, the Punisher character was a product of a chaotic era that was created in 1974. The concept of citizen crime stopping and vigilantism was becoming popular in the cultural zeitgeist in the 70s. This was, all the Charles Bronson films and Dirty Harry and that sort of thing. The exact same conditions are returning to the U.S. today, and so forth. The Punisher as an icon has been highly popular among conservatives, military veterans, and law enforcement officers. This has made leftists at Marvel Comics livid. They first attempted to make fundamental changes to the character, including a redesign of his popular skull symbol, taking away his guns and giving him swords. And instead of fighting against criminal organizations, Frank Castle joins with one, violating his fundamental code of ethics. This month, though, Marvel officially declared the Punisher persona non grata, eliminating the character as readers know him. Did he go out in a blaze of glory? No. In typical woke fashion, Frank Castle is captured by progressive heroes, chained up and forced to go through a struggle session, how very Maoist, in which he is admonished as a murderer and a terrorist. Marvel even brings the Punisher's wife back from the dead, only so that she can divorce him and take his money and property, and then inform him that his lifelong crusade against the criminal underworld was all for nothing, because of course she wasn't dead in the first place. The character then dies from apparent suicide. I mean, this is an act of pure and unmitigated hatred for a hero, specifically for a right-wing hero. The character on The Boys, it's all about how awful and evil the heroes are. Ironically, then, the anti-heroes have to become heroes and so forth. But Ian says, comic issue 911, the Punisher gets banned from Airbnb. And so, anyhow, this was not a surprise to me. This was not a surprise to the legend Chuck Dixon. And in fact, as we mentioned on the blog, we decided actually some time ago to create a new superhero universe that is going to be a new and improved version of the Silver Age comics milieu. And so, if Marvel and DC want to eat themselves and that sort of thing, if they want to abjure and castigate the heroic ideals of the past, that's fine. Because as I've said many times, when people co-opt my ideas, when people propagate them without making any mention of where they come from and that sort of thing, it doesn't matter. The identities don't matter. The characters don't matter. It's the ideas that matter. Frank Castle, qua Frank Castle, is not relevant. The Punisher is not relevant. Because the symbols are just a vehicle for the ideas, and the ideas, they're free. They live. And so, in this particular case, Chuck addressed the issue. He sent this statement. He says, it's not exactly a secret that the Punisher is my favorite character to write. For whatever reason, I have an affinity for the guy, and the stories came easily. But if we're being honest, Frank Castle was never a good fit at Marvel Comics. There were always restrictions when writing about him. Editors waved me off for going too far. Now I'm working on Black Warrant, which is in the same vigilante justice genre, except the guardrails, training wheels, and safety bumpers have been taken off. I'm allowed to take this genre in places it's never been and having a blast doing it. And so I'm pleased to be able to say that the first issue, not that issues are really relevant to Arkhaven, the first issue of Black Warrant is already complete. The artist, as you saw the sketch there of the character, the artist is familiar to all of you. It is, actually I can even show you. It is Helix Hayes of Alt Hero Q fame. And I think I've got a link here to, I guess I didn't. Well, let's see if we can, no, I'm not going to hunt it down now. But those of you who have seen Alt Hero Q on ArcToons know that he's an excellent artist. and a really good fit for what Chuck is doing with Black Warrant. And Black Warrant is not going to be the only hero that we're introducing this year. You may recall that we were talking about a character, a hero called Red Hornet that I'd created. And there's also a third lead character in the universe who's going to be introduced by a third creator who's, I'm not going to say anything about that yet. And we actually expect that that once we get that going, we're going to start inviting a few select other creators to participate in this particular heroic universe. It's going to be completely separate than Alt Hero. Alt Hero will remain the flagship series for Arkhaven, but I wanted to do something that goes beyond Arkhaven. I wanted to do something that goes beyond the context and world structure that has been created for Alt Hero. Something that's a little bit more traditional, doesn't have the built-in limitations that people don't know about yet, but that are intrinsically part of the Alt Hero world. So the thing is, how do we do this, right? How do we actually deliver this stuff? Arctoons is not successful in the same way that Castalia, Library, and Unauthorized are. Not yet. But it occurred to me that what we need to do is we need to apply the lessons that we've learned from Castalia Library. You know, what do we know about comics? What do people like to do with comics? They like to collect them. But, you know, we're not fast about getting stuff out. We're not, you know, we're still working on getting stuff out from crowdfunds 2.5 years ago. We're getting it done. The quality's great. You know, Avalon is now done. We're going to start shipping that probably early next month. But, you know, Alt Hero Q is nearly done. You know, the first Midnight's War is nearly done, and so forth. Lerner Bear says, I'm very thankful that after 3 years of waiting for my beautiful Junior Classics arrived. Thank you so much. Yeah, it takes a long time because we're building from scratch. This is not an apology, to be clear. We're building from scratch. But because we're building slowly and carefully, and because we're, you know, we built a wall this last week. And it took days to do something that could have theoretically been done in a couple hours. But you needed to take time to, you know, dig out the trench, make sure everything's flat, make sure everything's level, the gravel gets put down, etc., etc. Carnaby says, what's your exit strategy? There's no exit strategy. That's the thing. This is not a something, you know, Carl Denninger is wrong. Money is not the point. Money is just a tool. You know, yes, we need money. Yes, we want the next couple crowdfunds we do to set new records. And you'll see why in a minute. You'll understand what we're doing in a minute here. And I think it's going to excite a lot of you because not only are we excited, but we already have customers 1 week after figuring out how to do what we wanted to do. You know, I've had to literally tell people, no, we don't want you to pay anything yet because I want to make sure that we can deliver the quality that you want before anybody buys anything. So this is what I'm talking about, and I'll go ahead and I'm going to show you a little video, and I'll be interested to see how many of you understand the significance of what you're seeing. So I'm going to put my headset on, And don't turn up too loud, it's pretty loud. Oops. So what you're seeing there is what we call a sewing machine, a side sewing machine. And the significance is that when we create a leather book, it's done with the interior book block is created with something called a Smith sewing machine, and they get sewn down the spine, and this is good and strong. You put the end papers on, you gauze it, and then it's ready to put the leather on. Taryn figured it out. The Bindery does comics too. Precisely. So what I've been trying to figure out how to do, what I wanted to do from the very beginning, in fact, was I wanted to use our ability to quickly and efficiently produce paperbacks and combine that with the leather covers in order to quickly and efficiently and cost effectively produce leather books. Now, that wasn't possible. We couldn't do it because the way that the books are produced is from the print-on-demand system is they're all glued. And so you need a way to, for example, Easton Press does what they call repurposing hardcovers. So some of their books, actually a surprising percentage of their books, are actually just regular books they purchase from other publishers. They rip the covers off and then they sew them down the side. Now you have to sew them down the side because they because you can't you don't have the signatures anymore. So it's a fundamentally different sewing process. And there's very, very few of these companies. In fact, there's only 3 companies that even make these machines. So anyhow, and here you can see what the fundamental problem is. So these are the books that we just repurposed this week. So this is a side sewn version of Conan. Some of you will recognize it, and in fact, the 1.2 version of Conan has just been submitted, should be shipping next week, complete with the new illustrations and of course, the fixing the typos and so forth. So now if you look, that margin, the interior margin, is much smaller than you normally see from one of our books. And we spend a lot of time optimizing our internal margins. Now this is what you would see if you open up an Easton Press book that has been repurposed. Like if you open up an Easton Press book and you see margins that are narrow like that, that means it's a repurposed hardcover. Now it's not too bad on a small hardcover like this, right? Kona is only 126 pages. Even when you're in the middle of the book, you can still clearly read the two sides, although, like I said, the interior margin is suboptimal. This is the 172-page Alt Hero Volume 1 Omnibus. And actually, it's not quite, I compared it to the regular paperback, and I realized it's not actually that bad compared to the glued version. But you can see that as it goes deeper into the book, you start getting pretty close to possibly losing some of the text, some of the right in the narrow margins. Now, a lot of people consider this acceptable. We don't. It might be necessary for Easton Press to put up with it, but since we're creating this stuff from scratch, we don't have to. So what we're doing is we're creating new books, basically slightly resized versions of the books that give us enough margin on the side so that you still have a proper margin in the middle. And the advantage to this, there's going to be some disadvantages. Number one, these books can't be gilded. It's just not possible. Number two, that's actually about it. And the big advantage is that we believe, I can't guarantee this, but we believe that we're going to be able to sell leather-bound omnibus comics of around 150 pages or so for $50. We've been actually talking to some folks about the potential level of interest, working with other publishers, because a lot of other publishers, some of whose names you would recognize, not DC and Marvel obviously, but are super interested in being able to do this. And this is potentially going to be a real game changer, because with the cost of paper driving the cost of hardcovers up, we're going to be getting pretty close to those hardcover prices, except you're going to be getting, instead of a glued book, a sewn book, which is much stronger, won't fall apart. And it's also going to be a leather-bound book. And so, we don't know yet how well it's going to work. Can the interior support semi-gloss, or is it locked into matte? Semi-gloss is really not cost effective. Theoretically, it'd be possible, but our system would not permit it. We've got excellent pricing on this paper, and the colors on this paper are really nice and vibrant. So we see no reason, and we also prefer we prefer the texture of it. So, but it's possible, and frankly, we don't need to. If another publisher just wants to ship us the stuff, we can do it. We've got the machine. So if you want to print something up on semi-gloss and send it to us, shouldn't be a problem. Now, what we don't know, we'll have to run tests, because we don't have any semi-gloss stuff. Although I suppose we could actually arrange. Well, everybody's paper is different. So even if we do our stuff on the gloss and we run tests, we won't necessarily know what that means for your particular gloss. So we're going to have to be running tests. Like, for example, we found out that there's the heavier color paper actually allows us to do more pages than our traditional cream. For the leather books, we're going to have to go with the white 50-pound paper instead of the cream 50-pound paper, because the cream just does not cooperate very well with the sewing machine. The pictures you saw are cream, but that book's only 126 pages. Exterminator Bear says, books are just like shoes and boots. Leather is better than synthetic. Sewn is better than glued, and they both outlive the competition. Precisely. So what we're doing, would they still be archival paper and not acidic inks? Yes, but not the same quality. We don't know exactly. We don't know. We've got basic data from the printers, but this is not the kind of thing that they pay close attention to. When we last looked into it 4 years ago, the paper was, I would call it near archival paper, but you're also not paying for that really expensive paper. That's the whole point of bringing the price down. But what we will do is we've already got pH testing equipment, and we're in as we're doing these tests, before we offer anything for sale, we will tell people exactly what the situation is with regards to the paper and the inks. But based on what we know, the level of quality, the level of durability, and all that sort of thing is going to be off the charts compared to what your conventional comics based on that easily wrinkled glossy paper is. I didn't want to use it from the start. In fact, we never even talked seriously to them about giving us special pricing on that, because we had no interest in it. It's just not, it doesn't hold up well. And we don't believe that the additional brightness that you get from it is worth it. It's not worth the price. It's not worth the fragility that it brings to the paper. Could be wrong. Maybe people demand it. And like I said, if you're a publisher, an independent publisher, and you want us to run a test on your paper, send us a couple samples and we'll run it through the machine and see what happens. But the limits are going to be about 100. The limits of the machine we've got are about 180 pages. So that means essentially for comics, we'll be able to do books like this. This one is 107 or 168. So it's a good size, good quality. And like I said, I think that we're probably going to offer some kind of Arctoon subscription that's going to involve the regular delivery of either an Arctoon's leather comic or another leather comic that we've acquired somehow, either in partnership with another publisher or possibly just a repurposing, a la Easton Press. There's a lot of material out there. I was talking to Chuck Dixon about stuff that he might like to see us put together and make available. And so, anyhow, this is going to be, I think a significant game changer, because of course it's actually combining two highly collectible markets, leather books, and people who are into leather books love collecting leather books. People who love comics are into collecting comics. We think that this is a perfect marriage of two different concepts together. And, if we can deliver a level of quality that is perceived at the same level as Castelli Library or Easton Press, I think that it's going to be extremely popular. Off topic, but is there a goatskin history option in the future? Possibly. I don't think that it's kind of contradictory to our goal with the history project. The goal of the history project was to make things as both affordable and long-lasting as possible. And so that's why the cowhide may not be as beautiful or as sensuous as the goat skin, but it's almost certainly going to last longer and survive more rugged treatment. But we can play that by ear. Once we are doing things at our own bindery, we have a lot more flexibility with regards to smaller print runs and so forth. And so, we'll just have to see. But anyhow, that's what I wanted to let you know about. I know you guys are eager to see your support for the bindery come to life. It's getting closer and closer every day, and we're going to be bringing some things to the table that we hadn't even imagined back when we were asking you guys to support it. So I hope you're pleased with some of these new developments. And now I'll take some questions about whatever topics you guys would like to discuss for the next 25 minutes or so. Sam Freeman says, Vox, I'd like to publicly thank Yordamon and Ender at UATV for fast and helpful tech support. You're welcome, Sam. I'm sure both of them will be quite pleased to know that you're happy with how things are going. And, and encourage your friends and fellows to have a look at Unauthorized and subscribe. It just keeps getting better. There's a brand new exclusive video from the legend Chuck Dixon that we're uploading tonight. And yes, the Promethean is in the works for Castelli Library. All we need to do is nail down the end papers, and it goes into production at the US Bindery. Be Good says, it's been pleasure. I love my beautiful books. I always like hearing that from people, just because it's something that I can relate to. When we developed the hand binding ability, the first thing I did was go to our binder and hand him like 6 books and say, do these. It's both a personal pleasure, and it's also just it's a fun challenge. It's fun to come up with, like, how do you solve these problems? Nobody's solved these problems before. So Carnaby has a question: when and how will the Ukraine war come to an end? If I could answer questions like that with any degree of reliability, we wouldn't need to crowdfund anything. But my belief is that the Ukraine war is going to come to an end when the U.S. withdraws its support for the Kiev regime. The Kiev regime collapses, and there's a division of the territory of Ukraine, and that Russia will hold about 2/3 of it, and the European Union will administer the other third, the western third. We'll have to see, but the initial 2 days of the offensive have clearly failed. It hasn't been a traditional launch the whole offensive and roll. It's been more of a let's do recon and force in several different locations, see if we can find a weakness, and then send in the offensive. So that Ukraine still has most of its available troops ready to go. The problem that they've got is that they've got nowhere to go because none of the units engaged in their recon by force managed to successfully penetrate any of the Russian defenses. The Idaho Crusader says, I work in American manufacturing. Very weird stuff going on in the economy right now. Very weird. Well, yeah, that's because the credit economy is collapsing. You know, massive companies are just walking away from properties on which they have too much debt. You know, 2 major hotels in San Francisco just got abandoned by their owner. That's not normal. Yeah. Will silver go down with the false flag? For a bit, and then it'll pop up again. Anthony sends a super chat. Thank you. It says, thanks for the Bindery info and video. An excellent direction. He might be just a little biased. He's an Arctoons contributor. He said, I forgot I had super chat credit. Fair enough. Appreciate it. Inquisitor Bear wants to know, what's the deal with all the alien stuff all of a sudden? Just misdirection. Well, I think that it's part of Clown World pulling out all the stops to justify its own existence. Both the Russians and the Chinese have made it very clear that they are not going to submit themselves to Clown World any longer. You know, maybe they refer to the United States, maybe they refer to the rules-based international order, whatever, but they're all talking about the same thing. They're all talking about the empire that never ended, which currently has the United States, Washington, D.C., New York City, and Hollywood as its centers of power, and they're the U.S. is no longer the global superpower. It's still a major power, but it's not what it was. It was interesting that Trump made reference to the Monroe Doctrine today, because the Monroe Doctrine was the first time that the United States expressed itself as a power on the same level as the traditional European powers. But the mere fact that one would even have to bring up Monroe and the idea of the U.S. having a particular sphere of influence in its own hemisphere is a massive step back from the idea that the U.S. was the global policeman, the monopole, the primary global power. It's not the case anymore. Prince Ludwig says, I wonder who Medvedev is talking about when he says our centuries-long enemies. Well, I think that he's talking about the international bankers. And they were behind the White Russians after the Bolsheviks took over. They were probably somehow involved with Napoleon in his invasion. We don't know what exactly the situation was with them and the Nazis, but it wouldn't be a surprise if there was some level of involvement there. But I think, he could be talking about the Jews, but he's, Medvedev is not, he doesn't tend to hold back a lot. So I think he would have just come out and said that if he meant it. The Idaho Crusader said, the U.S. is too divided to be the main global power. Americans just need to get over their delusional of saving America. Well, yeah, I mean, saving America means saving the traditional American people. You're not going to save the continent-spanning political entity. The USA is done. It's over. You know, it doesn't even have the power to maintain order in its own capital or in a major city like Chicago. You know, it's not possible to pretend the USA is a viable bastion of order anymore. Sam Freeman says, has Space Bunny uttered the phrase, please don't share recently? No, she has not. What she did say was when I sent a picture to her of me on the digger, was who let him do that? It was in all caps. And threats were issued, but not at me. Hold on a second here. I'm going to mute my mic and then I'll change the... There we go. Sorry about that. Inquisitor Bear says, wait, I thought you were a long haul trucker, not a digger. How many blue collars do you wear now? Oh, I wear two. I'm all about the digging, you know, all about the gravel. Yeah, it went better than you might have expected. So, yeah, I'm popping my blue collars now. You know, you remember the old preppies that used to wear the two Izods? It's just like that. I'm just wearing two blue Izods. One's a little bit dark blue, one's a little light blue, and I'm popping those collars. So it's I think it's an exciting development. Inquisitor says, what's next, Goat Butcher? Probably not. I've been informed in no uncertain terms that I am not to molest or bother or transform the goats into fine leather books in any way. So Coddington says, poppin' blue collars, trucker hat to the side with the gas station sticker still on it. Yeah, I'm all about the new style. So I think it's coming back in vogue. You know, someday there might come a time to put the black t-shirts away. But today is not that day. Everyone needs a side hustle these days. Absolutely. 100%. The Powers of Bear says, I don't believe a blue collar has ever been popped. That's why you come here. You come here for the new fashions. Would winemaker be classed as blue collar? No. No. If you got your own vineyard, you're not blue collar. But Sigma. Speaking of Sigma grind set, we got something new for everybody today. I think you'll all be excited. We've added a few new characters, right? The new guy at the office. This just went live, episode 99. So, oops. I don't know why. So, this is the new Hypergamous. Kate is hanging out with her buddy at the office. She says, "Now who is that?" "He's the new marketing VP." Could be an alpha. Could be a Bravo. Hard to say. He's a little young to be an exec. Well, that's all we need. Another whiz kid. Yeah, so they're interested, not too interested, but the one says she hears he's a real jerk. Kate thinks, oh, he can't be that bad. So you're going in? I'm going in. Lacey's the best. I love the way the friend is like kind of resigned, you know? And Kate's cracking her knuckles like she's going into battle. But it's I'm always a little bit more sympathetic to Kate than I think I'm going to be as a character. You know, she's the sort of quasi feminist, you know, getting a little bit long in the tooth, getting a little bit desperate when it comes to the guys and so forth. But she, you know, she wants to be married. She wants to have kids, but she can't even admit it to herself. So anyhow, it's I always feel a little bit more sorry for her than I anticipate. But anyhow, it's just possible that the elusive Sigma may have made an appearance in Hypergamous. So, and we're coming up on the 100th episode, which of course means we're going to be putting together the first Hypergamous book. And doesn't it just happen to be timely that we're going to be able to offer them in leather as well? So anyhow, I think that we'll probably be doing a modest crowdfund for the Hypergamous book, more as a way to introduce it and sell it than anything. I mean, it's going to be done anyhow. Sam Freeman sends a super chat. Please post the digger pic on SG. It will be so meme worthy. Yeah, I think we'll have to do that. There may even be a video. So that could be amusing. But anyhow, so we've got about 15, is it 15? Yeah, we've got about 15 more, no, 12 more minutes. Nibmeister says, I'm going to need that book. Well, you know, Hypergamous is our most popular cartoon, so our most popular comic on Arktoons. So, you know, it'd be good to get it in print, get it out, you know, make sure people can give it to their friends or whatever. You know, I mean, honestly, I think it's easily as good as the lesser Far Side books. Big Red says, when you only keep the skulls of your enemies, you need to put the rest somewhere. Idaho Crusader said, I couldn't find a print version of Stone Toss anywhere. Would he be interested? I don't know. You know, we'd be more than happy to put Stone Toss in print, but we'll have to see. Does any other comic company offer a leather-bound omnibus? Marvel doesn't offer it directly, but they do have some of their classic Silver Age stuff available from Easton Press. So, Rupperbus said, here I thought Stoke was a Sigma stand-in. No, Stoke's not a Sigma. Stoke's a Delta with the possibility of graduating to Bravo. You know, he's a little bit overwhelmed by his girlfriend. And so, you know, he's very fortunate that he has the situational status that helps keep him attractive. But, you know, but there's always the danger that he'll revert to his customary behavioral patterns. Because remember, it's always the behavioral patterns that's the key. When we get stressed, when we get when we are feeling down, when we suffer defeats, that's when we have a tendency to revert to our customary behavioral pattern. And that's what's dangerous for, people like, well, I used to be a gamma, but I'm not a gamma anymore. I'm like, well, I'm glad that you're improving your behavior. I'm glad that people are paying attention. That they're rewarding your improvements and perceiving them and rewarding them. But you can't say that you are no longer X until you've been through some negative situations and successfully avoided reverting. Vox, could you please leave replay on? I mean, I usually do, so I don't have any plan to turn it off. No, we're not playing any music tonight. There's not time. Don't worry, I've got that. I'll play it soon. Could you see the USS New York being their narrative tool since it was made with World Trade Center steel? Yes. Yes, that's definitely possible. Especially with what's going on with New York and all, that's pretty weird with the whole, yellow skies and the nonsensical Trump indictment that I don't know if it's actually coming out of New York this time, but certainly the previous one did. There's a lot of nonsense going on. I think the key thing to do is just don't really pay any attention to it. Focus on what you can do. Focus on your life. Focus on being productive. If Washington crumbles into dust and aliens decide to melt down all of New York City, it's not going to affect you very much. I mean, there's a horrific war going on closer to here than San Francisco is to Washington, D.C. And there's literally no sign of it. Even the Ukrainians who are around are not around anymore. Coddington said, someone asked the simulation to install the Blade Runner theme for New York. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's looking more like Escape from New York. Focus on prepping your local communities for what's coming. Exactly. You should be talking and making friends with your mayors, with your local city councils. Not so much because they're going to do anything that you warn them about, but because if you tell them about it, if you warn them about it now, then guess who's going to be the person that they're going to turn to when the predicted events start taking place? It's a very effective approach. Saw an Illinois travel ad recently that kept saying, the center of everything, reminded me of a potential false flag in Chicago. Yeah, I very much doubt it would be Chicago. I mean, I think the country's complete lack of concern for what happens in Chicago has been made eminently clear as the media breathlessly reports, 37 people shot, 12 fatally this weekend in Chicago. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I mean, for the average American, what happens in a place like Chicago is about as relevant as when you read about a train crash in Bangladesh or a massacre in the Congo. It's not their country. It's not their people. And so, the lies are falling apart. I'm going to switch this. More and more of the lies are collapsing. More and more people are seeing through the lies. And that's a good thing. Vox was my Napoleon super chat answered. What was the Napoleon question? I think so. Let me see. At what point? Oh, I see. No, it wasn't. At what point did Napoleon overreach? I would say that when he attacked Russia. How much ground could have been kept? Pretty much none of it. They had no need of it. There was, they went all the way to Moscow, took Moscow, and found out they couldn't keep it. What was there in Russia then? Literally nothing but farmland. Did France need farmland? No. I mean, it was just a foolish, pointless, ridiculous choice on Napoleon's part. Totally disastrous. And so, I think that Spain was also a bridge too far. Most empires overreach. Imperial overreach is a legitimate problem with empires and is indicative of the empire entering a contractionary phase. The United States is clearly in that phase. I think the big, it's probably formerly Korea. But definitely Vietnam. Now it's getting to the point that they don't even dare use their army directly. And that's a pretty remarkable change for the U.S. military. So anyhow, that's all we've got for tonight. So thanks very much for tuning in. I'm Vox Day, and this is the Darkstream.